Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the A-List podcast with A.Sherrod Blakely and my co-host, Kwani A. Lunis. Kwani looking mighty comfortable in the usual confines. I cannot say the same. This is the car podcast edition of the A-List podcast. Usually, Kwani, you're in the car doing the damn thing. I'm usually got my nice comfortable, but now we've got a little role reversal going on this week.
So where are you? Explain to the people. They need to know.
I am in Los Angeles, California, helping my son get situated. He's going to be moving out here permanently in LA, and there's so much crap as you can probably imagine going from Boston to LA.
Yeah.
And so it took a village to get him to the point where he could have a job like this, and it's taking a damn village to get him situated. Apparently,
that'd be like that sometimes.
It is like that sometimes. And so but listen. No matter what he has going on, it will not stop, can't stop, won't stop the A-List podcast from us doing what we do. Now, I wasn't the only one that was out and about today. I mean, you were out at Gillette, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes. So the Patriots and Giants had their first of 2 joint practices. So I went there for what they're calling the NBC Social Media Day, because it was NBC Sports Boston, NBC 10 Boston, NECN, and Telemundo, and me, Casey, Tom Curran, Phil Perry, we all went out there and just captured all the social digital content that your heart could desire. So if you're a Pats fan as well, you can, I don't know if that's a conflict of interest, but just head over there and watch all the videos and photos that we posted. It was fun, but it was really hot today. So yeah, I'm a little exhausted.
Well, I know our CLNS media crew, they were out there as well and doing their thing. And so definitely, they'll have some videos too. Exactly. And so obviously there's a lot of content because it's that time of year. But listen, the Celtics season may be not quite as robust as the Patriots are right now, but there's still stuff going on. I mean, you look at Josh Richardson, a guy that a lot of people weren't really sure, whether this was a guy that the Celtics would even keep around beyond maybe this season, and they signed him to an extension, giving him an extra year, 2 years, $24 million. Now, I've got some ideas about why they did this, but what's your take on just Josh Richardson getting that extra $12 million?
I mean, clearly that shows that Brad Stevens sees some value in him. Something in his game is worthy enough for them to sign him and bring him on this roster. But I am curious as to what your perspective is, because a lot of people were shocked about that move, because it definitely was one that could have flown under the radar if the Patriots news that were, had blown up. Because I remember looking at my Twitter feed and saying, wait, what? So I want to hear what your thoughts were. And why do you think actually Brad decided
I think there's a couple reasons. I think, first of all, he is a good player, and Brad Stevens understands, and Ime Udoka understands that if you're going to have a chance to win in this league, you're going to have guys. You need to have guys who can compete and have a very solid skill set. But to me, what's more important, or for the Celtics, is that this gives them the kind of flexibility that flies below the radar. Because right now, if let's say Josh comes here, things aren't really looking all that great. If you trade him, you will have a difficult time getting anything of value because he'll be in the last of his deal. By giving him that extra year, he's a much more attractive potential trade chip if you decide to move on from him. And for Josh, with a lot of uncertainty about how things are going to play out in Boston, having that extra year of security, knowing that at the end of the season, you still got a 7-figure, 8-figure check coming your way. So if you're Josh Richardson, it makes a lot of sense. If you're the Celtics, it shows that you're committed to him beyond just this calendar year, but beyond that. And if things don't work out, he's still someone that has value in the eyes of other teams, because remember, the salary cap is going to steadily go up. And if you got a player that's making $12 million now, a year or two from now, that probably looks more like $10 million in 2020, 2021 terms. So there's a lot of reasons why I think this makes a lot of sense. And shout out to Brad Stevens for playing chess while everyone is looking at him wondering, when is the checker game going to begin? This was a very, very low-key, stealth, intelligent move by Brad Stevens to make that type of deal with a guy like Josh Richardson. Because again, I think the Celtics right now, what they're doing is to me, they are having the best of all worlds. They're putting together a team where guys are going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. Guys are going to come in and compete. but they're giving themselves the ability to move on from those guys and include them in deals. If, let's say, I don't know, Bradley Beal says he wants to come to Boston, you now have enough chips in play where you could put something together from a financial standpoint that doesn't involve Tatum, doesn't involve Brown, doesn't involve Marcus Smart, and actually have something that might generate some interest. So again, shout out to Brad Stevens for stepping his game up. Brad Stevens, and we'll talk a little bit more about Brad Stevens, the coach, versus Brad Stevens, the GM. But I do like the Josh Richardson signing. And the other one that they got out there, Time Lord. 4 years, $48 million, Kwani. Is he worth it or not?
Going back to Trader Brad, as we call him. Well, you know how they call Trader Danny, so I guess.
Oh, he's Trader. Well, he hasn't. Well, yeah,
he hasn't traded anymore.
His first move was a trade, so he can absolutely adopt that moniker.
Okay, we can do that. Perfect. But just, I guess, overall front office, Brad Stevens is definitely a visionary. When we look at the sparks of greatness that we've seen from Rob Williams on this Celtics team over the past few seasons that we've seen him on the court, he obviously has potential. A lot of times I know that it's hard for a front office to look at potential as something that's worth value, but being that Brad coached him as well, I think that's another part of him being in that role that brings so much value. The fact that he's seen these players in practice, he sees them on a regular basis. We get to see them, you'll go to practice and see them in sparks as well. But for him to see players on a regular basis as a coach and now be in that front office, him being able to put money on Rob Williams says a lot, because from what he's seen, despite injuries, he still thinks Robert Williams is worth playing on this team as well. And I'm at this point, the moves that Brad has made are clearly ones that he is setting up not only for this team now, but for the future. And if he thinks Rob Williams should be here for 4 years, then, or, at least valued at that high of a number, then that clearly is something I think Celtics fans should be willing to take to the bank at this point.
I was shocked that they did this deal. And I'm going to tell you why. Not because Rob's not worth it.
Yeah.
But because I felt Rob was going to play a little bit more hardball and think that he's worth more. Because this is a guy that shoots 72% when he's healthy from the field. I mean,
that's the key word, when he's healthy. So yes, he may be shooting at a high level, but he hasn't shown enough consistency for another team to be willing to pick him up at least a bigger market like Boston to pick him up. He could go to Sacramento. He could go to Orlando. But for Boston to keep him at that level, I think that's why he shouldn't be that picky in that way.
Why is Kwani throwing low shade at Sacramento and Orlando?
They just have to pick smaller markets, okay? No,
they're not.
Kwani, I'm not gonna say no shade. It's clearly shade.
Sacramento is trash. All right.
Okay.
Orlando's not bad, but here's the thing about Rob Williams that surprised me. I was surprised that Rob did 4 years.
Yes.
Because here's the thing about Rob Williams III. When he is engaged and healthy, even in 25 to 30 minutes, he's a major impact player. And when you look around the NBA, I was hearing that Rob was looking for something in the Clint Capella money range. So you're talking like 17, 18, 19 million a year. And for Brad to get a guy who, when you look at his skill set, is very similar to a guy that's probably 5-6 million more per year, to get him at that rate, that's a great deal. And for Rob, I'm gonna tell you right now, and if Rob plays the way I think he will, and the way Celtics think he will over time, he's gonna be considered one of, if not the biggest steal in all of the signings during this offseason. Because if he develops into a borderline all-star, not an all-star, but a borderline all-star, and to me, that's a guy that gets you 14, 15 points a game, 8-9 rebounds, couple block shots. That's a borderline all-star center in the NBA. He has the potential to be that good. And if you're getting a guy that good at $12 million a year, a number that is going to seem less and less as time goes by, because remember, it's a 4-year deal that's going to average, $12 million a year. And plus he has the potential to earn an additional $6 million over the course of the contract if he meets certain metrics, and one of them being, I think he has to play like 69 games or average 69 games, something like that, to get that little extra cheddar. Then it'd be again. I'm surprised they got the deal done because I didn't think the Celtics could get him at this price. This, to me, feels very much like a Danny Ainge deal, because Danny is the king of, look, this is what your value is. This is what I'm going to pay you, and I'm not really, and somewhere between what you want and what I'm willing to pay, I'm going to get you over to my side of the equation, and you're going to get what I'll offer you. And so I was a little surprised that they were able to get him at that rate. I figured Rob would get at least $15 million a year. Because to be honest, with his upside and potential, even with his injury-riddled history, I still thought that was a guy that you're probably looking to get the deal done around $15 million. But for him to take $12 million a year guaranteed and another $6 million he can get in incentives, it speaks to their ability to get deals done. And I mean, if we're being honest and real, Rob is thinking probably like a lot of us, yo, that's a lot of money. I know it's not 18 million and it may not be 15 million, but 12 million is not something to sneeze about. That's real money. That's money that if you don't play a single minute, you got 48 million in the bank. 48 million in the bank. And Rob he's no different than a lot of folks, who are in the NBA, a lot of us who cover the NBA. You will take 48 million guaranteed every day and Sunday. Yeah. There's very few of us who either are in the NBA as players or in the media who would not take a guaranteed 48 mil package.
Right.
So I can't be mad at Rob for taking that.
You got to secure it. He has a daughter, right? And he has family to provide for. Right. And sometimes, anytime you're putting your physical, when you're putting your physical body on the line, sometimes it's just better to take that guarantee. I shout out to him for knowing his worth and definitely shopping to try to get it. But the fact that he was able to secure a guaranteed deal clearly shows that he has good people in his corner, at least agents or whatever that may be, saying, hey, you just got to take the money for now. And then when you prove yourself, then hopefully you can cash out again.
Yeah, because, you look around the NBA and some other guys who had deals that they felt, I'm not worthy. That deal is beneath me. Nerlens Noel, our boy from Mass. He's ready to sue his agent because he walked away from like a 4-year, $70 million deal. Which, full disclosure, those of us on the outside looking in were thinking, wait a minute, you got a $70 million deal on the table?
Yeah.
Like, nah, I'm good?
Yeah.
Nah, bro. Not good. Not good at all. Him, Dennis Schroeder, another one who had a great deal.
Thankfully, he was able to recuperate from that.
Right. And I'm still, I'm curious how Dennis is going to address those questions because they're going to come. They have to come. They will come. We will be asking him about.
Oh, absolutely. That's going to be the first question you ask.
Exactly. I'm just like, dude.
So what were you thinking? What was your mindset?
There's a way that we can massage those questions to make them a little more palatable. But the bottom line is, dude, you walked away from 85 mil and you got like basically you literally are getting paid pennies on a dollar. Mm-hmm. And you living in a tax bracket that's not exactly easy on the wallet. Yeah. So, but hey, his loss, Celtics game, it's all good. It's all good. And you know what else is good? This team.
Oh, you got us.
I think they're pretty damn good. I think this team, if health isn't an issue, because health, that's just, the X factor that always has to be thought about. But if it's not a major issue, I could see them possibly slipping in that top 4, like no higher than 4. Because I like the fact that they got some dogs on this team. They got some absolute Schroeder is a dog. Marcus Smart is a dog. Josh Richardson is a dog. Al Horford, he's not a dog, but he's like the big dog though. The big dog that's making sure everyone in the kennel is taken care of, is good. And if some of y'all get out of line, big dog might have to speak on that. Big dog might come at you. So I like the way this team is shaping up. I think they are going to be competitive. But the X factor to me is health and Udoka. I don't really know how good a coach is going to be. I think it's going to be good, but I don't have anything to go on but a hunch.
Right. I'm with you on that, and it could be because I've lived in Boston so long and have seen so many iterations of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been also so many teams where we said, oh, this team has potential. So I don't want to sound like a broken record every season saying, wow, this team has potential. But I will say from those moves that Brad Stevens has made, and even Coach Udoka having that potential as well to be a great coach, seeing the franchises he's worked with, the coaches that he's worked with, I think it's a good combination for success. But as you mentioned, it's something that we're going to have to wait to see out. But I'm liking this coaching matchup with the roster that we're seeing, even Brad being in the front office. The organization is definitely looking intact. But now it's time for everybody, other than Brad, because he's clearly been doing his job, everyone else needs to execute to make it actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Brad's doing that I think is really impressive is that he's doing the damn thing Brad's way, and it's not clear what he's doing at the moment, but it feels it's different than when Danny would do things and it would take like forever to figure out what the hell he was trying to do.
Yeah, it's like one of those things you have to see in hindsight. You understand.
Yeah, but like Brad is like kind of keeping us off balance with some of his moves, but it doesn't take a ton of time to realize, oh, okay, wait a minute. So you're gonna give Josh Richardson an extra year so that Josh thinks that we're investing in you, but at the same time, we may be doing that. But if we want to cut ties with you, you're more attractive to cut ties with now. So you get more money, we get a potential better trade chip in return if we move you, and everybody's winning. So. Brad, I think there's a clearer train of thought to what Brad is doing down the road than there was with Danny, and that just kind of brings me to the question I posed this a little bit earlier. I mean, who do you like more, Brad Stevens the GM or Brad Stevens the coach?
As you were talking before you asked me that question, the first thing I thought about was, how did Brad Stevens make such a seamless transition into that front office? Was it the mentorship of Danny Ainge? Was it just him soaking up basketball for so long and seeing the ins and outs of different organizations? Because I really do like him as a general manager, because he's been making moves that we, like you said, we see him working towards the future, but also working for the immediate future, long-term and short-term goals, essentially. And he does it in a way where you're like, it's like banger, like when an artist puts like hit after hit. That's what he's doing right now. I don't know how long he will keep up the momentum, but as of now, it's looking really promising. And if I was a Celtics fan, then I'd look at what he's doing for the organization, and I would definitely want to see him in that role for long term, because again, having that coaching mindset and knowing the players that he's worked with, the players that he's played against, he's watched so many hours of film throughout the NBA that he knows what's out there, and he's seems to be really good enough with numbers too to always be thinking about cap space and really making it all work together. So he's the perfect person for this role. Again, it's something that I think when we look back on this organization years from now, obviously that's when the time will truly tell. But I think as of right now, I'm giving him a grade A, because I just think that the moves he's doing for this team are very intentional. And yes, sometimes you have to make hard decisions for a team, but everyone that I think that knows him also seems to understand that the way he's making a business move is definitely different from the way that Danny Ainge has been perceived when he makes moves or has made moves for the Celtics.
Right. Well, first off, shout out to my man Mike Zarin, who is just low key,
always in the background.
The assistant GM, legal counsel guy with the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he does an amazing job just making all the numbers dance together, do the damn thing together. And he's one of my favorite people in the organization, because he's just one of them low key, get the job done. I don't need the fanfare. Don't quote me. Don't do it. I'm just getting the job done, and I have much respect to him for that. But here's the thing: I would give Brad an A-, and here's why. He's made good deals, but not great ones. He's made smart deals, but not like Einstein genius. Damn. All of a sudden, the Celtics are now a title contender move.
That's fair.
He hasn't done those type of moves yet.
Yeah.
But what I do like about him as a GM is that he seems to have benefited from his time as a coach. I remember there's so many times when you hear about Doc Rivers having coach/GM responsibilities with the Clippers. You see Thibodeau having coach/GM responsibilities. And we'd ask Brad about that, and he'd be like, "No, I'm good. I'm good in my role right now. I'm a coach. Danny does the GM stuff. We're all good." And now when he had the opportunity to double dip, because the Celtics, they would not have pushed back if Brad said, "Let me GM and coach."
I'll do both.
They would not have pushed back on that. But Brad was smart enough to get out of that position of coaching in time to pivot into a position where he would be more prepared for that position than the challenges that would have faced him if he came back as a head coach. Because if he came back as a head coach and they didn't do anything with the
he would have been cut. He knows that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you would have seen steam coming from behind Brad's backside. And you wonder, what's up with Brad? Oh, that's called the hot seat, baby. Brad ain't never been on that before. We've never seen him on that before. So shout out to Brad Stevens for being smart enough to pivot into a new role that would give him new responsibilities and, frankly, an opportunity to write a new narrative on who he is. I think back to those early years when Danny Ainge was trading players away. Like back in the day, we traded baseball cards when we was kids. Like, hey man, you got that Shaq. Yo, I got that Shaq. I give you this John Stockton, and I give you this other card. Danny Ainge was flipping players left and right, and Brad was just taking that in stride. And Brad would always say the right thing, that I'm just gonna put
always
that or given to me. That's my job as a coach. Play what I'm handed. But there had been a piece of him that's thinking like, damn, Danny, can a brother get some players for like a week that I can work with? I mean, it was to the point where it was like
he probably didn't know the roster one day.
Yeah, I mean,
who's on my team today?
Yeah, exactly. Like Brad, about player X, like, oh, is that done? I knew we were talking about it.
He was here yesterday.
Yeah, so I think that experience has helped him as a GM because he is making some very deliberate moves that are going to give Ime Udoka a chance to have solid, established, proven guys who ain't looking over their shoulder for a contract year. Re-signing Marcus Smart, he ain't looking over his shoulder this year. Giving Josh Richardson another year, he's good. Tatum is straight. Brown is straight. You start looking at Rob Williams now got his money. So now you got guys who are just simply going to go out and play hard. They ain't worried about the money. They're not worried about the contract. They're worried about playing time. And that is what I think is really the narrative that Brad Stevens has created this year. He's created a team of competitors, guys that have nothing to focus on but getting your ass ready to play ball and help this team win games. You don't have to worry about your money because your money is there. You got your money. You straight. That is not going to be something you need to think about. It's something that we're not going to be talking about because everyone is good. So it's all about what happens between those lines. And that's the one thing I think Brad understands all too well is if you can keep the focus on basketball and none of this contractual BS that he had to deal with when you had Kyrie. He had to deal with that with Terry. Puts him in a bad spot because he wants his guys to be focused on basketball. But he knows we would not be doing our jobs if we didn't ask, well, damn, Terry Rozier is ready to get paid, and y'all couldn't work out an extension, and he's kind of playing behind Kyrie, but he's kind of balling out too. So what you gonna do?
Right.
And with Jaylen Brown, which I thought that may have been one of the best moves, Danny. I would put re-signing Jaylen Brown right behind putting together the big three as far as the really significant moves that Danny made in his time as a GM, because Jaylen Brown, he paid him all-star money before he was an all-star.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were looking at him side eye like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown? Forget the fact that he was a number 3 pick. People act as if that didn't happen.
We surprised people booed him. He's never gonna forget it. We shouldn't.
He's never gonna. I love bringing that up to him.
I remember that day, like it was yesterday.
I remember that day too.
In the league.
And whenever you bring it up, whenever I brought it up to him, before I could even finish the sentence that I bring it up in, he's like, "Oh, I know, I remember."
Right.
And I'm like, "See, that's what I'm talking about. You need guys that don't
the chip on their shoulder,
the petty stuff. You need a little pettiness in your game."
That's the NBA, though.
They got a lot of guys who got some petty in their game. Schroeder, petty.
Yes. Marcus Smart,
petty. Jaylen is low-key petty, and I love that about him. He's figured out how to be like low-key petty, but not like annoying, irritating, obnoxious, petty.
Even Tatum can be petty when he wants, not often, but every once in a while he'll say something or give a little smirk where you're like, oh, I caught that.
Well,
you know,
I like they recently came out with the 2K ratings, and
yes,
and
exactly.
Tatum made it very clear that he's not happy with his rating, and he's like, I did drop 50 points games, and I did average 27 points. I did. He's just like, and that's all I did. Okay, I get it. I love to see guys own their ish. Own that. Be petty. Be petty. Don't, and let the world know.
Yeah.
Let the world know. So speaking of Jayson Tatum.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jayson Tatum, Mr. Olympic gold medal winning Jayson Tatum.
Yes.
The good folks at TMZ had a chance to catch up / ambush / however you want to describe what they do.
Right. Whatever they do, what they do.
I always find those interviews funny because if there was like a little bubble on top of the people who they're talking to, it would go something like, damn, I was this close before they saw me.
Right.
Because Tatum was literally having his car brought around, getting money from the valet when they ambushed him. And Tatum, he did the right thing. He said all the right things, which Tatum typically does. But the one nugget that he said that I thought was really interesting, he was asked about the Olympic gold medal, and Tatum talked about how great of accomplishment that is, but winning a championship, that's the goal. When I think about Jayson Tatum, he talks a lot about that, a lot about winning a championship. And I know Tatum has, he's had moments where he's looked a bit selfish out there. Yeah. And he's had moments where he hasn't been selfish enough. I still think he's 23 years old. He's still figuring a lot of this stuff out. But I love to hear him talk about winning a championship because, again, it's only been a couple days since Kobe Bryant would have been 43 years old. That would have been on Monday. And those are the things that Kobe said all the time. He talked about winning. Kobe could go out there and get you 30 points every night, but he knew that in order for him to have the kind of legacy that the greats have, you got to win a championship. And Tatum seems to be driven that same way. Now, one thing that is different, you don't necessarily feel it as much with Tatum as you felt it with Kobe. But I have to remind people that Kobe was like this 18, 19-year-old punk from PA when he came into the league that people were just like, he's all about buckets. He don't care about winning. And slowly but surely, he kind of created that narrative. And I see Tatum slowly but surely creating his own narrative, but very similar to that.
Yeah, because Tatum came into the league a little more soft-spoken. He knew he was good, but he wasn't like Kobe the way that he was talking publicly, talking trash publicly.
Tatum had talked to Colin from the day he got the league.
Literally, right.
So I think with Brandy, okay?
Yeah, exactly. When you go to the bar with Brandy,
her R&B game.
Who does no one can tell you anything when you went to a prom with Brandy. But yeah, their personalities are definitely very different, which is why I think we are slowly seeing Tatum break out of that shell. The NBA is a new thing for him. Like, he had to really adapt to the way the media is going to treat you, the way the game has sped up, whatever that is. So there's different things that he's adapted to, but I think overall we are seeing glimpses of that Kobe, that Mamba mentality of whatever, all the time he's spent with Kobe, I think will eventually be something that we start to see more of because he clearly respected, loved, valued everything that Kobe stood for, and we're starting to see it.
Yeah, and for me, it's hitting home just because like I said earlier, I'm in LA right now, and I was here, when Kobe would have been 43 on Monday, and I mean, there's always a lot of Kobe everything around, but on Monday, you could tell it was different. I mean, it felt, there was a clear and undeniable just across the board mourning, I guess is the best way to describe it, and people doing their own way to show respect for him, whether it was like a freshly painted mural or some cinder blocks in the hood, folks rocking the Kobe jerseys, all the different Kobe jerseys out there. I was driving and I came across somebody who had a license plate that said Kobe RIP, and I'd never seen that plate before. And I'm sure there's a lot of other iterations of Kobe, folks paying homage to Kobe and what he has meant. But it's I always find it interesting how Tatum has been able to balance that love of Kobe with playing for the team that Kobe loved to hate.
Right.
And how, fans, it took fans, I think, a little time to kind of recalibrate themselves to the fact that Tatum can still have immense loyalty and love for the Celtics and still have immense loyalty and love for Kobe Bryant. Because as much as Celtics fans don't want to hear it, the success that Tatum has had so far is in part because of how he's trying to model his game after Kobe Bryant in many, many ways, shapes, and forms on the basketball court.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt.
So, what else you got, Kwani Lupe?
What else is there to talk about in the world of the basketballs?
Well, I tell you what.
Who are you looking out for this season? Who's someone that people should keep on their radar?
There's a lot of folks out there. I tell you who I'm really interested to see, and it's only because I like him. He's like one of my favorite guys in the league, and that's Terry Rozier.
Oh yeah. He just got another deal too.
Terry just got that second fat payday. Shout out to Terry Rozier for getting that Brinks Trucks 2.0. Getting the Brinks Truck 2.0. But Terry, I think Terry, he's like right there on the cusp of being an all-star. Averaged damn near 20 points last year, shot almost 40% from three-point range. You look at some of the moves that Charlotte is making, they're going to be a team that if they can stay healthy, I think they're going to be really good. And Terry, I think this is going to be the first year where we're going to start talking about him as a potential all-star. And obviously, the ball kid is going to get a lot of the attention and a lot of the fanfare, but his best quality
the ball kid
is distributing the ball. Terry Rozier hasn't really played with a great ball distributor in his career. So I think he's going to benefit greatly from having, ball coming to the season, clear vision, understanding what he needs to do, knowing who his teammates are, what they can do, what they can do. And for Terry Rozier, I got another payday. And the thing I love about Terry is that before he got paid, he was pretty good. Once he got that first check, he's seen to step his game up a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
Better. And I respect the hell out of guys who understand that the only way that I'm going to keep getting these paychecks is to keep balling out, keep getting better, bring something new to my game. That's why, Jaylen Brown, from a Celtics standpoint, that's the guy I'm looking forward to seeing, because Jaylen Brown, every year he's been in the league, has gotten better. And I'm looking at his game now, and the only thing I can think of that he can get appreciably better in that's different than what we've seen thus far is getting other guys involved. And Ime Udoka talked a lot about that in Summer League. He's talked a lot about that whenever he has addressed the media and Jaylen Brown's and Jayson Tatum's name comes up. He talks about their ability to be more facilitators, more playmakers. And I'm curious to see how Jaylen is going to handle that role. We caught a little bit of him getting some shots up over in Vegas in Summer League. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that he can be ready to roll come the start of the season.
Yeah, his pass was off, right? His wristband.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing him really just take his game to another level, because again, he's such a great story. Just the way I can't think of the last time a guy was taken that high in the draft who got booed.
Yeah.
I can't think of that's unheard of. And for him to, low key keep that energy, keep that same energy and use it as fuel. Put that chip on your shoulder and just slap it there and know that it ain't going nowhere. Because I'm telling you, Jaylen can be a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15-time all-star. He's always going to have that chip. And whenever I say, you remember when you were drafted and the folks were, I know, I remember. He's never going to forget that.
Absolutely. That his story resonates with me, but to this day I wonder why people booed him. Was it really just the lack of not doing your research on college ball? Like,
there's a couple reasons why. One, he didn't have an off the chart statistically great season at Cal. They were a team that had really good players, but they weren't as successful as a lot of people thought they would be. That's from reason number one. Number two, that was the year, remember, Chris Dunn was killing it up at Providence, right?
He was a local kid, and everybody wanted him. And I remember,
right. And they could have theoretically used a playmaker like Chris Dunn in theory. And Celtics fans, you need to thank your lucky stars that did. Again, that was yet another example of a deal that Danny Ainge did not do.
Yeah.
that was the best thing he could have done. Chris Dunn, I like him as a person, good dude.
Yeah.
But I just Jaylen is a better player. I don't think it's not even debatable. Jaylen has been a better player, is a better player. When their careers are done and over with, Jaylen will go down as the better player. And that's what you want. I mean, you want to use whatever position you are in the draft to draft the best player available that can help your team. When you look at the success that Jaylen has had individually, you look at the success that this team has had since he's been around, conference finals, 3 of the last 5 years. Jaylen Brown has made his mark on this franchise. He's paid like a guy who's made his mark on this franchise. And again, that's the guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing among the Celtics players, what he's going to be able to do this year. What about you, Kwani? Who are you looking for?
These are my answers, and I have to pick somebody else.
Jaylen was your guy?
Yeah.
Okay, go to door number 2. You got to have a door number 2, Kwani. Come on.
Of course. I don't. Who's on the roster? I'm kidding.
Wow.
I'm joking.
I'm joking.
This is actually a good question. You should have prepped me for this one. Honestly, it could be a cop-out, but I'm just going to go with Tatum because
it's a cop-out, but it's all right.
It is a cop-out. But I think similar to your argument with Jaylen minus the chip on his shoulder, because it's not like Jayson has been told he won't be great at this point. I definitely do think and agree with Ime Udoka and when he says that he wants to see Tatum and Jaylen be more facilitators, and really I think Tatum really see him step up with that leadership on the floor for the Celtics. Obviously, he's a good shooter, but I definitely think that he knows this. He can evolve his game to a level where if he doesn't have a good shooting night, he's still able to, lob the ball to whoever is having that hot night and really take control of the game for the entire team. And I know that's a lot of pressure to put on one person, but
you're a max player.
And exactly, that's my point. If you're the max player, then that's not necessarily a pressure you should be avoiding anyway. And I don't think it's something that's impossible. So I would really love to see how he steps up in a role like that, where he's not only the go-to guy, but he also knows how to kind of hand the baton to whoever should be the go-to guy on any given.
The more he plays, it seems that he's having more and more moments where he's bringing an all-around impactful game. Like he can score with the best of them. But we're seeing more games where he's getting maybe 4 or 5 assists here, 7, 8 rebounds there. He's always been a good rebounder. Mm-hmm. Defensively, I thought he regressed a little bit last year. I thought his first couple years in the league, I thought Tatum was really trending towards being like an elite two-way talent. And I think he's still, in some respects, can still do that.
Still early.
It's still early. But I thought that there was way more attention that he paid to really enhancing his game offensively. And part of that had to do with, frankly, they needed that. With Kemba's help being what it was, and Jaylen Brown hadn't quite established himself as that other scoring option, and other guys being hurt, injured, all whatever. There was, I thought, a heavy burden put on him to be a big-time scorer. But when you look at this roster now, I mean, you got lots of guys who can go out there and get you 20 points now. I mean, clearly Jaylen can do that. Josh Richardson, I don't think Josh Richardson is a 20-point scorer, but I think he can be a high team scorer. I think Schroeder can be high teens, low 20s. And then you start looking at guys off the bench. They've got some decent talent. But again, is it a championship caliber squad? No. Let's not get it twisted. They're going to be competitive. They're going to win some games, but this is not a team that is built to win a championship right now. But I do think that there's some building blocks here that you can certainly envision positioning them in 2, 3, maybe 4 years of being that team. But again, I'm feeling good about this team, much better than I was earlier this year, because when the draft came and went and they took young fella from France in the second round, it was like, damn. Free agency starts and then everyone's doing things and they're doing enough, and then we're like, damn. And then it's like slowly but surely Brad's vision of how he sees this team and the role that guys are going to have started to come into shape, and it's like it's starting to make sense. Mm-hmm. But the key with this team is they just got to be gutty, they got to be grimy, they just got to be real, just dogs out there. And again, the other guy I'm really curious to see, not so much his play, but how his play influences those around him, and that's Marcus Smart.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
The thing about Marcus is that I love so much about Marcus Smart's game. I really do. I didn't feel as though his teammates felt him the way they should have last year. I didn't feel that they were following his example the way I thought they should have, because a lot of those guys, if we're being honest and real, it seemed like they were playing with their own agendas. Like Tatum wanted to be an elite scorer, and that was part of his agenda, and he did that.
Mm-hmm.
Jaylen Brown wanted to prove that he was worth that contract and could do lots of different things, and he did that. But in their efforts to prove who they were and what they were about, I didn't think that they brought it defensively the way they needed to, the way Marcus Smart tends to kind of make those around him do that. And so I'm real interested to see whether Marcus is going to have some more dogs with him in the fight this year, because I didn't think he had enough of those last year. And again, you bring back a guy like Al Horford, who I think is the ally that Marcus absolutely needs.
Gives a level-headedness to the team.
Yeah, I mean Al falls into the uber upper echelon OG.
Yeah,
that's when your OG speaks, you listen. and I didn't think they had enough OGs who could speak and make their presence felt, not only in their voice but in their actions. So I like this team much more now than I did at the start of the season. But again, I like this team not because I think they're going to win a ton of games, because I don't think they're going to win a ton of games. If they can get 50 wins, I'd be shocked. I think they're going to be somewhere closer to 44, 45, maybe 46. But what I do like is that this team's going to compete. They're going to fight. They're going to scrap. And I can be down with a team like that. If you play in Brooklyn and they got their three-headed monster, and you play them and the game comes down to the last 90 seconds, you catch that L by 3, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good with that, because you are playing a team that should be mopping the floor with you, but because you fight, because you got dogs in the struggle,
right? They're willing to fight to the end.
Give yourself a chance to win, and that to me is what this team should be about. It's not necessarily about wins and losses, but how well do you compete? Because you can't win if you don't compete.
How well do you lose?
Exactly, and do you take the losses as, well, they beat us by 30. They were a better team. They beat us by 30. That's what they're supposed to do. Nah, that's not how they're supposed to work. You're supposed to compete. And if you lose a game to Brooklyn, I love when Marcus Smart loses a close game, he's not all that happy.
Yeah. He doesn't want to talk to anybody.
It was a good effort, but hell no. We lost the game and we should have won.
Yeah.
Marcus is known for saying on more than one occasion, we should have won that game. And you know what? More times than not, he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. Like I said, I'm excited about this season. I'm ready to get going. I'm ready to get that opener against that New York Knicks and Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier. Let's get it. Let's go.
I'm willing to say that's going to be a W for them, but
that's going to be a fun game.
I'll put $1 on it.
I'm going to be there. I will be in the building. We'll be in the building for that one. I'm looking forward to that one. And I'm also looking forward to, Kwani, whatever you got coming, because I know you always got something coming down the pipeline. What's the latest thing you got?
I'm kidding. So on Thursday of this week, depending on what time you listen to this, I will be on the Hub today, which reminds me I have to email my producers and figure out what exactly I'm doing. So I don't know what I'm doing yet. You tune in at 11:30 on Thursday if you happen to hear this before then. If not, I'll probably post it on Twitter, Instagram, so you can watch the replay. But yes, I've been continuing the mayoral candidates series as we approach the primaries in Boston. So if you haven't checked that out already, definitely do so, especially if you live in Boston and you're not sure exactly who you should be voting for. You can find all the policies on their websites, but I'm giving you a different kind of perspective on who they are as actual people. And that's been the bulk of what I've been doing. NBC keeps me busy.
Good. This is a good thing. And to Kwani's point, an informed voter is the best voter. So I absolutely encourage, if you are eligible to vote for the mayoral do so. And find out as much as you can as soon as you can. So again, when you get behind that, and you casting your vote, you're casting a vote not for who had the coolest commercial, not for who gave you the sexiest flyer, but for who you feel has the qualities that you are looking for in a leader. So good stuff, Kwani.
And you?
As for me, Still doing different stuff with Bleacher Report. I'm starting to put together some long form pieces that I can't really get into now because those are developing. Recently, I actually, this week I did a piece actually on Kobe Bryant and just some of the lessons that we've learned, both athletes and non-athletes, from Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality and all that good stuff. So that's on ebony.com right now. And for me, Kwani, for a lot of folks, school's starting soon. So I'm starting to kind of formulate that and get my ducks in order and put out syllabuses and all that fun stuff.
Is it syllabi?
There you go. There you go. Way to go, VC. Way to go, VC. Shout out to Boston College School of Communications, Kwani Lunis. But no, you're putting all that stuff together and just getting ready for another year of really fun times at Boston University. And other than that, just kind of staying busy, enjoying this last bit of summer here in La La Land before I get back. How's the weather back home anyway, Kwani? I heard it's not great.
Well, it's 90 degrees, and I have not done anything fun this summer. Okay, not anything, but nothing, no vacation. Wow.
That's because you're on that steady grind, Kwani. That's what being on the grind is about.
I guess.
Grind.
I'm gonna start a GoFundMe. If you're listening, feel free to donate to my trip to Aruba. I just picked a random place. Yeah, Aruba. That's where it is.
Do you take paper? You take paper, white paper?
Paper cash? Yes, I do take paper cash.
But not
green
like
paper cash. No paper straw wrappers. Nope.
No. Okay. All right. Well,
no, so that doesn't.
I tried.
Try again.
And we will try again next week with another edition of the A-List podcast. And I should be back in Boston by then, if all things work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although this Italian ice that I had about an hour ago is not really sitting well with me, so I just might not make
a lot of information that our listeners did not necessarily want.
Listen, I'm just here for the people. Get the people what they want. Let them know.
Well,
full transparency.
That's a wrap on the A-List podcast with A.Sherrod Blakely and Kwani A. Lunis. Thank you so much for listening.
We are out.